Andy Warhol's shot Sage Blue Marilyn is an iconic image in almost every way. It was made by an icon, it's about an icon, and it looks, well, a bit like an icon. It's coming up for auction in May, and at $200 million, it has the highest estimated price of any work of art at any auction ever. Which begs the question, could this be the most expensive painting ever sold, and does it deserve to be? That record is currently held by the Salvator Mundi, a mysterious portrait of Christ controversially attributed to Leonardo da Vinci, which sold for $450.3 million in 2017. If shot Sage Blue Marilyn sells higher, well, it's almost the sort of thing you'd expect from a bona fide icon. So what is shot Sage Blue Marilyn? Why is it so valuable, and why was it shot? Let's dive in. First off, what are we looking at? Well, shot Sage Blue Marilyn is a portrait of Marilyn Monroe, American film star, fashion icon, and sex symbol known and mostly loved the world over. For this portrait, and for all of his Marilyns, Warhol used the same film still from the movie Niagara as a base, and it's a deliberate choice. This still is the definitive what we think when we think Marilyn Monroe. Curly, platinum blonde hair, dreamy, heavy-lidded eyes with the signature winged liner, and parted red lips. She is old Hollywood glamour, but here, Warhol takes this already iconic image and pushes it a step further. He's used the language of advertising, painting her in colors that are bold, lurid, and poppy. Her hair is bright yellow, and her hairline doesn't quite match up. Warhol's acrylic is too schematic, too unnatural. It's almost as if her hair were pasted on. Her face is pink, a mask, with clumsily applied powder blue eyeshadow highlighting her half-closed lids and vibrant blue eyes. And her lips are a deep ruby red, like lipstick, except Warhol hasn't stayed in the lines here either. Instead, he has intentionally overlined them for emphasis. Meanwhile, ultra-white, pearlescent teeth emerge from between her lips like something shining from a dark, bloody cave. Basically, Warhol is saying, screaming really, that none of this is real. There's no sense of Marilyn as a person in this image. Instead, she has been painted over, commodified, mythologized, and packaged for mass consumption. In other words, this is an obviously manufactured image, and paradoxically, because it doesn't pretend not to be, it's somehow a truer portrait than the original film still. It admits its artifice in a way that the photograph does not. Through his use of bright, provocative color, his source material, and his methods, Warhol draws our attention to the artificial nature of fame, celebrity, advertising, and iconography. We know Marilyn Monroe only as she has been presented to us, in photographs, interviews, and movies in pieces: blonde hair, blue eyes, red lips, fragments of a personality. But ultimately, we do not know Marilyn at all. She occupies another world, here a flat, featureless, sage blue world, the formless, unidentifiable, isolated space of the icon. A closeted Byzantine Catholic, Warhol was heavily influenced by Byzantine icons. These were flat figures, often shown hovering on shimmering gold backgrounds, indicating the heavenly realm, the eternal. Most critically, they were separate from the viewer. The modern saint, Warhol seems to say, is the celebrity. And like Byzantine saints, one couldn't get too close to the real Marilyn, or the real Andy for that matter. Both were expert in personal branding. Warhol understood better than most the power of the image, having spent many years of his life in advertising. This would prove invaluable to cultivating his public persona, in part marked by his shift from Andrew Warhola to Andy Warhol. Ditto Monroe's, from Norma Jean Mortensen to Marilyn Monroe. But back to the piece. Shot Sage Blue Marilyn is one of a series of 5 works Warhol made in 1964 using a more complex, labor-intensive silkscreen technique. After these Marilyns, he never used it again. Zooming out on the set of 5 and on Warhol's work with Monroe's image in general, we might ask why use the same image over and over again? What does redundancy and an almost obsessional repetition accomplish? On the face of it, Warhol might be, again, using the language of advertising to indicate saturation. In a culture of mass production, the image, the produced, is endlessly, essentially repeatable, and it is repeated ad nauseum, until eventually we, the viewers, become numb to the once captivating image, which is then discarded in favor of another image, something new to worship. That's one reading of repetition in Warhol's work, but even though the bones of Warhol's Marilyns are the same photograph, if you look at how she's painted, she almost seems to say different things. In this one, she represents the pseudo-religious icon, the cult of celebrity, an inaccessibility which fascinated, alienated, and ultimately destroyed. Here, she speaks to a more commercialized art and the potential of mass production techniques, with her carelessly colored purple lips and teeth, bright pink background, and pink eyeshadow, all bright pop colors used to sell, to grab attention, and to drain the canvas of the artist. And here, Warhol seems to comment on the nature of repetition itself. After a while, after repeat exposure, even the most striking image becomes boring and ineffectual. The story behind Shot Sage Blue Marilyn's title is stranger than fiction. Once upon a time in New York, performance artist Dorothy Podber entered Andy Warhol's studio, The Factory, with fellow artist Billy Name. She saw the set of Marilyn's and asked Warhol if she could shoot them. Thinking she wanted to take a picture, he said yes. She then pulled out a revolver, shot through the stack of 4 Marilyns, and left. Taken aback, but still effortlessly cool, Warhol asked Name to please make sure Dorothy doesn't come over here anymore. The bullet holes were subsequently repaired. So, will Shot Sage Blue Marilyn actually exceed the estimate and go for more, for less? It's hard to say. All markets have cycles, and the art market is no exception. That said, there is little doubt that Warhol's work possesses a powerful, unique draw for many collectors, and Christie's is certainly holding little back, hailing this piece as one of the rarest and most transcendent images in existence, and comparing it with Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, and even Botticelli's The Birth of Venus. The proceeds of the sale will go to charity, the Thomas and Doris Amann Foundation, so should you choose to buy, you'd not only be acquiring a monumentally significant work of art, but also helping children around the world. Win-win. Care to make it a triple win? Like this video and subscribe to the channel now for more content like this. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, please consider supporting us on Patreon at the link in the description box below. As a Quince patron, you'll get early access to future videos and can even vote on upcoming video topics. Our amazing patrons allow us to work on these videos full-time and make them as good as we possibly can. Thank you all very, very much for your support.